Well, good morning everybody. I am back in my usual surroundings of the bongo after last week's decadence. If you didn't see it, I'll put a link here. Check out the amazing hotel stay that Holly and I did at the Crazy Bear last week. But as promised, I still love my bongo and I'm very happy to be back in the van today. Well, today is Friday and we have had a run of really cold but gorgeous blue sky days, and I love those sorts of days in winter. I don't mind the cold because you can wrap up, but really since Christmas that just incessant rain and drizzle and greyness everywhere. It's a good job we had Christmas in the middle to cheer everything up. But today and for the last few days it's been stunning. So Richard and I got up, well, reasonably early this morning and took Teddy for a walk over some fields local to our new house. And I put the drone up, but I was a little disappointed. I think we were there too early, so it wasn't quite light enough. But it just made me energised and wanting to get out today. I think the problem with being in the house a lot over Christmas, I got a little bit lazy and procrastinating. And I felt what I needed to do today was create a list, just little things like I've got to make an appointment at the dentist, Teddy's got to have an appointment for her annual jabs, and it's just a couple of things I want to tick off, and I've done a couple of them already and I'm feeling much better. And today I am speaking to you from a car park, and I'm going back to when I did my little competition a couple of months back. I asked for some suggestions for future videos, and one of the ones that did appeal to me was, well, it was a few, and I'm going to be doing more of those videos coming up. But Tamsin Phillips suggested a video talking about some of my childhood haunts, and as it happens, the area that we've moved to is even closer to where I grew up. So I have come in the van today to the village where I was born and bred, and it's called Aberkenfig, and very close to the M4 between Cardiff and Swansea, for those of you who know a little bit about South Wales. And I'm in the village car park, and the reason I've come here today was to go to the library. And this one has got a special little part in my memory. And I remember this library opening, and I used to love the library. I think, as you probably guessed, I love reading and I always have done. And I used to love coming to the library when it opened here. And I happened to be in the library must have been a Saturday morning or school holidays, and a photographer came in, as they did in those days. I don't think I was with my mother, so she obviously wasn't given permission. But anyway, the photographer gathered a couple of us kids who were in the library at the time and had a photograph taken for the local newspaper, the Glamorgan Gazette. If I can find that photo, I will dig it out. And I've been in the library now, and there is a sign there that it was opened, and it was in 1977. So I would have been 10 years old when that photo was taken. But anyway, I still love this library. I still love coming to this village because there's so many memories here from childhood. I have brought a can of Heinz minestrone soup with me today, and I bought some of these nice rolls, cheesy rolls from Tesco's, and I'm just going to warm those up in my little camping mug. And I am just going to sit here. I've been to the library, as I said. I've got a lovely stack of books. I've been feeling a little bit uninspired since Christmas, really. I've not really got back into the throes of videoing, and I've lost a little bit of mojo. And as I said to you, with Christmas and the house move and everything, I've really been involved a lot with there. And I felt today the sun was shining. We got up quite early, got out quite early as well, walking, and I just felt like I really need to be inspired. And that was one of the reasons I came to the library today, was just to sort of have a look at some books and see what I could sort of pull out to do going forward. And I am delighted to say I got a whole load of books that already I've got some ideas. Railway day trips. Now, you know I love, well, you might not know, but I do love Michael Portillo's railway journeys. I always keep in the van Bradshaw's, which is the guide that Michael Portillo uses in his series on TV, and I really love that programme. And I do love railways also. And again, this area, I remember when I grew up in this village, the coal lorries would trundle past the house, literally meters from where I lived. But you just seem to get used to it in those days. You know, you didn't really notice the trains thundering through the house. So yeah, I thought I might do a vlog about using public transport. I think I mentioned that in an earlier vlog. Of course, there will be more bongo videos coming up, don't worry. But I do like getting out and about with public transport. So yeah, I thought that might be some ideas. I've got a book on photographing South Wales. Again, might get some inspiration in there. And this is a bit of a quirky one. Picked up a book and it looks quite old, doesn't it? Classy book. The Old Parish Public Houses, Past and Present. So just a little reminder of some of the old pubs in the area and the history of them. And yeah, the book on Porthcawl. This one now then, how do you fancy this? A book of the hauntings of Glamorgan and Gwent as well. And I've got another book that I had given to me in the house on the local folklore. So I thought maybe we could go visiting some sort of local haunting spots and see if we can pick up any feelings there. And as I live in an area that is so close to at least 3 castles, I have lived around them all my life and I love visiting them, but I don't really know much about the history. So I'm going to educate myself. I picked up this book from Cadw. They look after the Wales ancient monuments, and this book is Coity Castle, Ogmore Castle and Newcastle, which are 3 castles within probably 5 miles as the crow flies from where I am now. So yeah, something like that coming up. So I hope that sounds good to all of you. What other news have I got? I think I'm going to warm up my soup and have a roll while I digest my thoughts. Otherwise this is going to come out of me waffling. Yeah, some food, a little think, and I'll come back to you in a couple of minutes. That soup is hot enough. I'm gonna save washing up and eat it from the camping pot that I've warmed it up in, but it's way too hot at the moment, so I'm gonna leave it cool down. Something else I've done since I started warming the soup up, I've gone through my food cupboards. We've had a really cold, frosty nights for the last couple of days. And I just went in there to sort of see what supplies I've got in there really. And I've noticed there's a lot of condensation on the packs. And I think that's definitely a tip if you keep food in your van. Definitely at this time of year, have a think about whether you really need to leave it in there. I have gathered a lot and put it in a bag to take back to the house. Things like jam and a couple of cans, because I don't want them to start rusting. And I certainly don't want rodents and mice. I've heard some horror stories of people with caravans and camper vans, etc., having mice nibbling away. I don't tend to keep powdery things like oats in here anyway, it's mainly cans, but there are packets of soup and I think they would nibble through those. So it's a reminder to myself to avoid damp and condensation, really have a good sort out of the cupboards. Similarly, I've got a sleeping bag up in there and a couple of items of clothing. and I'm going to be taking those in the house to air them as well. But for now, I'm going to enjoy my minestrone soup and my cheese roll. Good old Heinz soups. This takes me back to childhood as well. I often used to have a thermos of soup to take to school. That was lovely. That really took me back. And sitting here in the village where I grew up, eating Heinz soup, I'm suddenly feeling really nostalgic. I think that's going to be a theme for a few vlogs coming back, turn into nostalgia. I think as we all get a little older, I think it's inevitable you start looking back. But I must admit, I look back on my childhood with majority very fond memories indeed. And I feel really very comfortable coming back to this village. And I think I'm going to do a few more vlogs from the village, do some drone footage hopefully, and some photos. I don't have an awful lot of time today to do filming because I've got an appointment later on this afternoon. But I might go out and show you where I went to nursery school in the local welfare hall, as it was called. And I don't have happy memories from that because my mother took me to nursery school there, and I remember just absolutely hating it. And I was quite a clingy child, I think. And I just remember this enormous hall with a wooden floor, and my mother taking me in there, and she had an apple in her hand, and then the nursery assistants took this apple off her and wrote my name in, this wouldn't happen these days either, would it? A marker pen. They'd write my name with a big marker pen, and we'd go off and play, and then at break time we'd all be given a cup of milk, and the teacher would come around, or the nursery assistant would come around with this apple, identify the child whose apple this belonged to, and then with a knife cut out the name so you didn't actually eat the ink. But yeah, strange what memories you have. Good morning again. It's now 2 days on from when I did the filming in the car park at Aberkenfig. It's Sunday today, Sunday morning, and I'm hoping you can hear me above all the road noise. I didn't really do much filming after I spoke to you because I kind of run out of time really, but it did spark something in me, feelings of nostalgia for the village that I was born in. So I thought I'd carry on this week's vlog by walking back to the village and to try and align modern day landscapes with as they were when I lived here. It's going to be a little difficult, I think. I have dug out a couple of photos from the 70s, but I'm currently on the old road from Bridgend into Aberkenfig. This was the main artery, as I say, from Bridgend and beyond to the valleys, my stag, so it was an extremely busy road. And when the M4 was built here at the end of the 70s, this road was bypassed, and that's what you can probably hear, a combination behind me of the M4 and the bypass road. But I do remember coming on this road, and I've just looked back, I've taken a photo of an old sort of warning symbol at the side of the road, and also you can see the little pavements. So yes, a few ghostly reminders of life in Aberkenfig back in the 70s already. What I'm planning to do is see if I can get the drone up today, because I'd love to get an aerial shot of the welfare hall that I was telling you about, where I went to nursery school. It's a lovely building, built pre-war, with money raised from local people, I believe. I know my grandmother used to go there to play whist. I used to go to nursery school there, and there used to be tennis courts there, which are not there any longer. But I'm wondering if I can get the drone up, just have a little aerial look, because it's a lovely building, and I believe they are restoring it at the moment. I'm also going to take you to the park that was very near my house where I lived as a child, and I found a photograph of me sitting on the swings, and I thought it would be quite fun to take a photo of me today, hopefully from the same angle. Yeah, let's go. And I love this, look, it's the bit of original pavement covered in moss. Still there though, and even a very old bench, which back in the day, before these trees were here, would have had wonderful views over to Coity Common, Sarn. Not any longer though. A little further on along that top road I found these old stone steps, and I came down to have a little look. I vaguely remember I would never have been able to come here on my own when I was a kid, but I think my parents brought me down walks down this way. It doesn't really lead to anywhere now, but in those days I believe it was called the Black Path, and went through farm fields. But I came down and I saw this amazing stone bridge, and the times I've driven over this bridge, walked over this bridge, and you never really notice what's underneath. But as I came down the steps, you can see what an amazing construction it is. Not sure when it was built, but certainly in the 1800s and something. Just an ordinary road on top, but look at all that engineering beneath. This is Aberkenfig Welfare Hall, just as I remember it, even down to the railings. It was built between the wars and originally provided a public hall, billiards room, bowling green, tennis courts and other features typical of miners' welfare halls of this period. As you can see today, the bowling green is still immaculate. Unfortunately, the tennis courts to the left of the bowling green have sadly fallen into disrepair. Do you think the building looks a little lopsided? And if you look at the pine end, it looks as though that wall is made of corrugated iron sheets. And there is a reason for that. I spoke to my mother, and apparently the committee ran out of money to complete the building, which should have had another wing to double the size. This is a photograph of how the welfare hall should have looked. But I still think it looks a lovely building, and I'm really pleased to hear that they are applying for grants to extend and refurbish the building. Well, I've arrived in the park where I played. It's pretty much down the bottom of my garden, and I've walked in here, and this little island of shrubs, it looks to me exactly the same as it did in the 70s. Those little stones haven't changed, the shrubs themselves haven't changed, and I used to climb in there and make dens. It looks like all the swings and things have changed though. Now then, who's this strangely dressed young girl? Yeah, you guessed right, it's me. And the reason for my red, white and blue outfit and party hat is because it was the Queen's Silver Jubilee in 1977. And of course the whole nation were holding street parties. And our street party was actually held in the welfare hall that we just talked about. So the swings now are over in the middle of the park, which just used to be green areas. But I remember the baby swings, as we called them, were on this little patch, and then the big swings were on that second patch. So I'm going to walk over there now and see if I can match up that photograph with 1977. And over there's another little patch which used to have a rocking horse, and over there another one that had the witch's hat. And all these corrugated metal fences are exactly the same. Guessing whoever took this photo, I think it was my dad, would have been standing, because that little semi's in it, would be standing about there. So I'm going to take a photograph. So this is me in 2022. That's me in 1977. Well, this is interesting. The railway line you can see behind me is the one that I remember coal trucks trundling along umpteen times a day when I was a child. And I've never really seen it, but I've just walked past the road where I was born, and where the brickworks were, there is now a Lidl and a Home Bargains that I use regularly. And there's a footpath behind them with some houses, and I just followed it just to see where it led, and it's led to a crossing. You can actually cross this railway because it's not used anymore. In fact, I think it's obviously kept in a certain amount of condition, so it might be used for maybe emergencies or if they need to do maintenance on other lines, but it's not a mineral line any longer. And it used to bring coal from the valleys, I think, to Porthcawl. And I think older residents, my mother included, remembers catching the train when she was a child from Tondy to Porthcawl. Sadly not here now, thanks to Dr. Beeching. Maybe one day they can reinstate it. But I've no idea where this path turns out in the village, so I'm going to follow it and find out. Okay, well, I just followed the footpath across the railway line to see where it ended up, and I recognised the back of the houses straight away. I came up on a little street called Meadow Street, which leads to the primary school that I went to. I'm not going to go and visit it today. I'm going to head back home now. I put the drone up earlier on, hoping to get some footage of the village I was born in and in the park I was in. I put the drone up and had a bit of a scare, because as soon as the drone went up, I was just about to set it on a flight, and a sort of flock, if they're called flocks, of pigeons came out from a pigeon house somewhere and started flapping around. So I panicked and brought the drone back down. And oddly enough, I remember as a kid there was a house a couple of streets behind mine that had pigeons, so I'm not sure if it's the same family of pigeons from them, the same owners. Quite possibly it is. And so I didn't want to risk it. So I don't think there'll be any more drone footage today. But I hope you've enjoyed this one, a little trip back in time. It's got me on the theme of nostalgia, so I'm hoping to pick up where I've left off today and come back and have a little look at some more areas that I was born and bred with, if you're happy for that. So I hope you've enjoyed this one. Be wonderful if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed as yet. Please, if you're watching on a TV, maybe go on your phone, just hit that subscribe button, and if you've enjoyed this video, give it a like. It makes such a massive difference to the way the channel grows, and the more people that like and subscribe, the more my video gets sort of suggested. So I would appreciate that very much. I'm going to walk back home now. Should take me about half hour or so. And I will catch up with you next week. Have a good week, and I hope you're enjoying the nice, dry, milder weather. Take care, everyone. Bye.